If you see this video, I'm quite sure that you have found like one of the hidden gems, because this is gonna be an experience that you may not have tried before, because this one is a special one. So I have divided this video up in two sections. The first section is gonna be me talking about this mockumentary, where I take you through the entire story like a guided tour, with safety of course. The second part, however, is my own theory about what this is really about. And if you have seen other theories too, it really is not what it seems. So I need to find my script, because I had some funny stuff to say, I think. It is here somewhere. So, I found it. So, Saiko the Large Family is a mockumentary, which means it is supposed to feel as real as possible. To achieve that, they have probably hired the best low-budget interviewer they could find in the entirety of Canada. And that is Veronica. She is going to ask heart-burning questions like this.
What are you doing?
It's a salad. It's a freaking salad. You don't need a translation for that. It's a salad! With that blown off, I can tell you this much. If you're one of those people who don't like jump scares, there's none of that here. However, if you're one of those people who struggle to overthink things, this might be the scariest movie you'll ever watch. So, if you're still in for a treat, let's dig in. So in the opening sequence, we get a short introduction of Tokugawa City, where we see the most popular sport amongst the youth, baseball. While Veronica asks each kid what their favorite player is, she then makes a narration about Japan's declining birth rates, and it becomes apparent that she wants to document one of the fewer but still remaining large family of Japan, the Saiko family. Because I guess she wants to capture the spirit and culture before it all fades away, essentially. Our journey together here is set in the north side of Tokugawa, Saitama, which I have found memories from myself.
This is crazy. This is my first natural disaster.
Shortly after this, we arrive at the Saiko family, aka the Ula family, where we see 3 young kids and a mom picking vegetables for the upcoming breakfast. In the chaos of everything, we see Veronica doing a first meme, trying natto for the first time, which she clearly stole from me. Sticky. While everyone enjoys their natto and miso soup respectively, we get an introduction of each character with their name and age. The father then asks each kid what they would want for the next dinner. When the time comes to Lee, something seems off and everyone becomes quiet again.
お肉とかさ、お寿司とかどう？まあお寿司っても寿司いいよね。りゅうちゃんなんか食べたいもん聞きたいな。まあそんなちょっと大した祝いっていう感じにはちょっとできねえ。りゅうちゃん、まあ遠慮しないで言ってよ。りゅうちゃん。じゃあ焼き肉でもしようか。ね。
So I have to stop it here, since I don't think the YouTube gods would like me very much if I did show this. So in the best way I can recreate this, think about Android 18 versus Vegeta. That's a pretty good recreation if you ask me. When we see the reaction on Veronica compared to the family, we can kinda assume that this is not the first time that this has happened. Yuta even pours his hot miso soup over the father, Sumio. It is important to say that the father does not resist at all, he just gives in. We then have an interview with the father, Sumio, and the mother, Tsukasa, about what happened.
Are you badly hurt? Sumio was not her real father. Keiichiro Ura was the former father of all the children apart from Sumomo and Lychee. He disappeared 7 years ago.
So for now, we basically have no information about if he had any motives to leave. There's a lot of information here, so you just have to listen for now.
Sumio was a manager of a store where Tsukasa worked part-time. He met her there. He had sympathy for the fact that she had such a hard time bringing up a large family by herself.
お店でも困っていたんでほっとけなかったんですよ。今女で一つで子供たちを生活を養ってるっていうふうに聞きまして、でまあ結構大変な思いで頑張ってんだな、僕に何かできないかなって思ってまして、まあもし、僕が大家族のお父さんになれたらなって。
Sumio tells us that he is in fact only the biological father to the two youngest kids, Sumono and Richie. Which makes a lot of sense when you look back at it, because they are the only two who seemed cheerful and actually responded to the father in a positive way. Like here, Mikan and Yota just ignores what just happened. Despite that everything seems to be against him, he still remains a very good spirit. But something about the mother's reaction in this next clip makes you wonder.
僕たちまだね正式に籍も入れてませんし、子供たちも僕のことをお父さんって。
It really just seems like Sumio just wants to prove that he's a good father, but something about the mother's distressed reaction to when he mentions marriage might indicate that he may not be as a good father as it seems, especially in the context of how Lee's reaction was just before. We then have an interview with all the former father's kids about how they feel about their new father.
なんかキモい。私はまだお父さんと思ってないんだけど、私生活とかどんなんって話しかけてくるから、前のお父さんの方がいっぱい遊んでくれて優しいからいい。
すごいイライラするかな。すごい慣れ慣れしいのが自分の中ですごい頭にくるというか腹にくるんで、まあちょっと。
What a brat! Lemon calls him creepy, while Yusa, the son who spilled miso soup over him, calls him irritating. I think Lemon calling him creepy might be an error in the translation, since Kimio does not literally mean creepy. It's more like strange or odd, but in a negative way, I guess. In the next scene, we see the mom preparing food on a plate, and some of you might have noticed that we have not been introduced to all the family members yet.
May I ask a question?
すみません、質問させてください。
はい。Is there anyone in that room?
誰かそこにいるんですか？
あ、お兄ちゃんです。一番上の。
This is the eldest brother's room.
Since childhood, the eldest son Goki, 23 years old, had longed to become a baseball slugger like Mr. Matsui in the New York Yankees. He suddenly went astray and even stopped attending high school when he was in second year. The young people like this are all called Yankees in Japan. After that, he changed. He withdrew from society and never came out of his house. This youth problem can be seen so often in recent Japan. Why doesn't he ever come out of his room? Is there a reason why he stays in his room for so long?
We don't get any answer to this question at all. The mom just says, "Wakarimasen." We learn that he has been in this state for years and only comes out when he has to take a bath. Which is very odd behavior, but that is all we have for now. There's shortly talk about his Japanese choreographic, but they only mention that it means some sort of baseball terms.
やっぱりバットとか三振とか野球に未練があるんじゃないでしょうかね。
And baseball terms.
Yeah.
I see. At 7 p.m., Sumio finishes his work and came home.
When we hit nighttime, we see each family member's night routine, where we learn that apart from the father, Mikan, the second oldest daughter, works for the hospital at night to support the family. And they're a bit worried about Lee since she has not returned home yet, the daughter who have massive daddy issues. Although it seems that it might not be the first time she has come home late. But then we get a new name on the table.
りんごちゃんとはなんか連絡つけた？
The mom has not been able to contact her for 6 months because she has changed her number. And the place that she had found work 3 years prior, when they call the company, nobody knows who she is. Veronica then asks Sumio what he might think happened to Ringo.
What do you think happened to Ringo?
りんごちゃんは僕たちの結婚に反対だったんですよ。だからそれで出て行ったんです。とても僕は責任を感じています。父としても心配です。
We then cut to a few days later where we see Sumio running around in Yokohama because she got a tip the month prior that one of his friends might have found Ringo somewhere in Yokohama. So we see him walk for a while before he stops in front of this shop.
この店だと思うんですが。
It was a dirty shop. Japanese call this kind of shop Fuzoku-ten. Although it is called a dirty shop, a woman who works in the shop never do genital union. It is a Japanese peculiar style that it stops the moment before genital union. What's the point?
One thing though that we'll never get an answer to is how the friend got the connection. We don't know if the friend actually went to this shop and found out or not. Although Sumio shows us this website where he found a girl called Apple. And if you know just a little bit of Japanese, you know that Ringo means apple in Japanese. Sumio then makes a reservation for the night to find out if it is Ringo or not. At first it doesn't seem like Ringo knows who he is at all. Even after they meet and introduce themselves, she still doesn't really know who he is. But a few exchanges of words later, this situation becomes very uncomfortable.
りんごちゃんでしょ？
いや、やめてくださいよ、なんか。
The situation then escalates further and the father is essentially thrown out for being a pervert.
すいません、ちょっと来てもらえませんか。
どうしました？
すいません、もう一度追い出してください。
何が？
変なんです。
りんごちゃん。
何が？
いや。
変態なんです。
ちょっとすいません。
いや、違います。
ごめんなさい。表で。
Although nothing went right, he's still kind of happy that he had found her, even though he's pretty unsure what he's gonna say to Tsukasa, his wife. The mom Tsukasa is of course very sad to hear the news about what happened to her, but Sumio promises that he will do everything trying to get her back to the house. We then cut to 1 week later where we hear he has met up with her multiple times but without any luck. And then something very unexpected happens.
It happened suddenly. Sumio found that the second son, Ruta, had fallen from the second floor veranda. An ambulance was called immediately, but...
So the ambulance was not able to get close to the house because the road was just too narrow, as you probably can see in this footage too. Sumio tells us that he is in a very critical state, but he is saved from now. Dan then gives us even further information, saying that Lemon was also in a bike accident last year, but we still don't know what caused this accident or if there's like any connection at all. We then have a small interview with the mom, where Veronica says that she is worried about Yuta and wonders why the mom is still in the house. She says that she is not able to meet Yuta at the hospital because she has to take care of Goki, aka Big Bro, who stay in his room unless he have to go to the toilet. And now we see a basket where there's a knife stuck into what I assume to be a lemon and a dragon fruit. And I think that might symbolize Lemon, who had an accident on a bike the year earlier, and Yuta, who just had an accident. But then you also see this object, like an egg or something, falling down. For now, let's just continue. We then see Sumio waiting outside of Ringo's work, I guess trying to convince her one more time. Sumio then shortly follows her, and we can see that she is actively trying to reject him one more time. But then he mentions Yuta's accident. We then see them from a far distance talking on a bench. Sumio is trying to convince Ringo to go home or at least hear him out. And it's a very one-sided conversation until Ringo breaks down, crying.
無理だよ。
なんで？
今更帰れるわけないでしょ。
Ringo then tells him that the reason why she worked at such a place was because she was left in a big debt because of her previous boyfriend. We then have two time cuts. The first time cut is 2 days where we see Yuta has recovered and he looks fine, but we don't get any information about what happened. A few days later we see Ringo has returned home because Sumio had paid off a $50,000 debt with his pension savings.
ただいま。
おかえり。
ごめんなさい。
The reason why I included this clip is because the mother seems to have very mixed emotions about this situation. It sort of seems that she's not really happy that she's there. It's going to make sense in the second part of the video, so just bear with me for now. 1 week later we see them all gather together again. And even though I knew what was going to happen, the way it's set up makes it very effective. So Leah has her second outburst, but this time it's a bit different because now it seems like the children is a bit more on the father's side. Ringo even pulls her away from him. And surprise, we have another breakfast scene where the kids are getting rather freaked out and surprised.
本当よ。
Because they're eating a chicken we see in another scene that they played with earlier, called Cookie. When the mom explains what kind of dish this is, she calls it the parent-child dish.
親子じゃないことが多いんですよ。でもうちのは本当の親子です。
And even though Veronica doesn't seem to know what the kids are reacting to, she's getting rather grossed out by it. We then get the first teaser of Big Bro Goki's room, where we can see these two kanji, which combined means to hit something hard. And the rest, I have no idea. I guess baseball terms.
Yeah.
We then have this very odd scene.
ここで遊んじゃいけないっつったでしょ。あんたたちの一人ぐらいいなくなったって困らないんだからね。
Yeah, it's a very odd thing to say to your children. And then we have this long scene where they talk about a bunch of different things, so I'll just let it play out now.
What are you drawing?
何書いてるのって。
庭の野菜のところにエンレケのお化けがいるの。野菜のところで遊ぶとお母さんがすごい怒るの。
What is Enrique?
エンリケって何って。
前に飼ってた猫です。お父さんがいなくなっちゃった時にちょうどエンリケが死んじゃったんで、庭に埋めたんですけど。
Hi Dan, what are you studying?
ダン君何の勉強してるのって。
保健体育です。お母さんがいつも保健って言ってるんで、保健体育頑張んないといけないのかなって思って言ってます。
Sumio seems rather concerned that he is drawing a red painting over what is representing a dead cat. We then hear that Dan got an interest in medical science because his mom often talked about some sort of insurance money. We then have what I will call the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star section. Twinkle Star is playing in the background while we get various of non-connected shots. So first we see the mom smiling very aggressively while spraying something at the vegetables. We then have a small glimpse into Goki's room where we can see some more Japanese choreographics. And then we meet the basket one more time. But this time, instead of 2 knives, there's a knife in every fruit. And I just have no idea what this might symbolize, so... The next dinner scene, we see Sumio suggest that they should move into a new house, because it's getting rather old. But apart from Sumio's own kids, biological kids, nobody really seems to support him at all. Tsukasa, aka the mom, is not too happy about the idea either.
僕も正式にみんなのお父さんになったわけじゃない。だからまあ心機一転引っ越ししたいなって、思ってんだけど、
まだいいんじゃない？
みんな学校も近いしね。
And then we have this off-cam scene in the bathroom.
やっぱりこの家何かあると思うんだよね。
何か？
いやほら、龍太君の怪我とかさ、それには去年レモンちゃんとで自転車で事故したじゃん。りんごちゃんのことだって、豪輝君も他の通り。
As we can tell, Sumio seems to be rather concerned for the children's health. Without being too specific, he does believe there's some kind of curse or something haunting the family. So this scene goes on for a long time, but Sumio at one point suggests that the mom should pay for the new house with some sort of money. That money is probably the insurance money Dan was talking about earlier, but we don't know that yet. And then for the first time, we hear about the third son, Takaharu.
The third son, Takaharu, who died at the age of 9. Takaharu accidentally drowned in the river in 2001. 7 years ago, in 2002, the former father, Keiichiro Ura, suddenly disappeared. Sumio thought that the series of misfortunes to the family, such as the death of Ringo, Goki's withdrawal, Ri's domestic violence, and Ruta's accident, were all caused by this house.
There's a lot of information in this part of the video, so I'm just gonna summarize this interview very quickly. So Sumio seems very concerned. We can even see him biting his nails. He gives a short insight to why he think the family won't move, and it's simply because it's their family house, they grew up here. So we already know that the former father, had disappeared 7 years ago. Funny enough though, if you have been missing for over 7 years and is married to someone, the other person in the marriage will then receive insurance money for your passing. But we now know for sure that what they were talking about was the insurance money. So in this next couple of interviews, Veronica is going to ask Ringo, Dan and Leiichi about what happened to the father.
So why did Keiichiro disappear?
どうして圭一郎さんはいなくなったんですか？
ちょっと突然のことだったので、ちょっとよく私たちもわからないんですけど、私たちもちょっとまだ信じられないので。
気さくでよく遊んでくれるいい父だったのは覚えてて、でも時々すごい怒ることがあって、お姉ちゃんとかバンバン殴られてたりした時は僕怖かったんですけど。
Why do you think your father disappeared?
よく覚えてないんですけど、お父さん体が悪くてもう仕事もやってなかったんで、なんか悩んでたのかもしれないんですけど、でもそのことを心配してお母さんとお兄ちゃんとお姉ちゃんとかがよく集まって相談してたりしたんですけど。
He don't know why, but father was in poor health.
Why do you think your father disappeared?
なんか昔テレビの人が取材に来たことがあって、なんか心霊写真に呪われたとかそんなようなことを言ってましたね。昔うちの家族を紹介しますみたいな内容でテレビがうちに来たことがあるんですよ。でなんか霊能者の方がそのお父さんはそのゴーストフォトの世界にこう引き込まれた、連れて行かれたみたいな感じのことを言ってました。
すごく気味が悪くて、見ているだけでこう鳥肌が立つような、その写真を見た時にどこかにしまおうということでしまったんですけど、翌朝郵便受けの中にその写真が入っていたりとか、それですごくもうゾッとしてしまったので、その後にまたもう捨ててしまおうと思ってゴミ箱の中に入れたりして捨てたんですが、玄関の前のところにポツンと落ちていたりとか、それですごく気味が悪かったので一度お祓いをしてもらおうと思ってまして、でお祓いをしていただいたんですけど、それでもやっぱすごく怖い写真でしたね。
So I'm gonna unfold all this information in the second part of the video, because for now it won't make too much sense. A few scenes later we actually get a bit more information about the father. So at first we see Mikan and Ringo making some food for Sumio, again symbolizing that they finally see him as their father. Sumio seems to like this food very much. And Dan then tells us that this was also the former father's favorite food. While Dan is telling this, the mom just immediately shuts it down.
それね、前のお父さんもよく食べてたよ。それとね、エンリケも。
黙って食べなさい。
はーい。
And we finally get to see if there's actually a person in Goki's room.
開けるよ。ゴキご飯。
And he is right there. Maybe not in a good shape, but he is right there. we then get the final showdown between Lie and Sumio. But this time, it hits different. The second Lie lays a hand on Ringo, Sumio snaps and actually hit Lie for the first time.
You finally met your match!
Right after this, Lie just runs away from home. And while the rest of the family kinda gives up very quickly, we then have a 3-hour cut where we see Sumio is still looking for Lie.
Sumio continued looking for Ri in spite of it getting late.
He finally finds her and we get some sort of explanation to why she was acting so aggressively the whole time.
殴られて怒られていろいろ考えたらなんか自分が甘えていたんだなって思いました。今まであんなに叱られたこととかなかったし。
While this may not make too much sense at first, if you think about it, the family was in a very bad state. Their former father disappeared, Ringo disappeared, their cat was dead, and Goki too. Like, all that could make your mind very complicated and make you very aggressive. The only thing that is a bit weird is that it's a very quick transition from being very abusive to just accepting the father. But as she was saying, maybe she was just very happy that she finally got told how to act. And there was a consequence for her actions. And before this big family trip, we then have this very obvious clip in front of Goki's room.
Goki.
Surprise, surprise, who finally joined society again? Goki, my man. While this is the final chapter of the story, nothing really happens. We do have some cute interviews where they again ask the former father's children what they think about the new father. And as you might remember, Yuta was saying that he was very annoying because he was acting like his father. But now, he has a very good reason to like him.
今僕が元気にこうしていられるのもやっぱり僕が怪我した時にお父さんがすぐ来てくれて僕をおぶってくれて病院に連れてってくれたからなんでもう本当にすごい感謝してますしもう僕の命がここにあるのは今のお父さんのおかげだと思うのでもうすごいありがたく思ってます。
So we do get some sort of character development. And the other thing is that Goki is there, but he is just hitting air for the entire family trip. We hit nighttime and again nothing really happens. We do get an interview with Sumio and Tsukasa where they both are saying that how happy they are for the kids to finally accept Sumio as their father. And that's the end. Or is it?
There was a familiar scene in Ura Family where the children played together. But someone was missing, the one who always stayed in the house.
10日くらい意識が戻らない状態が続いています。担当の先生が言うには命が助かっただけでもよかった、奇跡のようだって言ってますね。
Whilst camping, Tsukasa slid down a cliff to the bottom of a valley, hitting her head badly. She was found unconscious.
Yeah, so the mom probably has a very slim chance of recovery, as it seems right now. We then have the last interview with Sumio, where he is saying that he is just waiting for her to come home so they can move to a new house. And that's the end. But if you're like me, who on the first viewing thought this was a family drama, you missed every single plot point, hooray! But if you want to hear what is really happening in this story, you're never going to see this movie again with the same eyes. You are warned. The first thing I want to uncover is the mom's relation to money. We know now from the first viewing that the money she'll eventually get is because of the former father's disappearance that took place 7 years ago in the start of this story. She'll get this money because after 7 years you are declared dead if you don't show up. In the bathroom scene, we hear that Sumio brings this money up, but the mom doesn't really want to talk about this, and she especially don't like the idea of spending the money on a new house, even though Sumio is very worried about the kids and seemingly has a very good reason to use the money, which he already proved by spending all his pension savings on saving Ringo, even though she had no remorse or respect for him. And earlier on, we have an interview with Dan, where he mentions that the mom often talked about insurance money, and that is the reason why he is studying medical science. And actually, it's even foreshadowed already in the first interview with Tsukasa and Sumio, where Sumio mentions that they're not married yet, where Tsukasa has this very distressed and off-putting reaction to it, even though Sumio just mentioned how happy he is to just help out the family right after he just got beaten by Lee for no reason, it seems. And that really makes you wonder if Tsukasa actually cares about her children at all, when Yuta is badly hurt and most likely has a good chance of dying. She states that she cannot visit Yuta because she has to take care of Goki, but when Sumio mentions Goki in the bathroom scene, she doesn't want to talk about him at all, even though he's most likely in a very bad state of mind, since that he has not been out for years. And one of the most important scenes to uncover this mystery is the scene where we can probably assume is the only scene where we know that Tsukasa doesn't know the camera is rolling, because we are right outside the garden when we hear Tsukasa gets very angry because the kids are playing near the garden. And she says this very weird thing to Sumono and Leiichi, that she doesn't care if they would disappear. Which makes you wonder, why does she care so much about this garden? The only other character who has the same kind of outbursts, but again probably taken to the next level, is Lee. Towards the end of the story, we get some kind of conclusion to her story after she has the fight with Sumio, where Sumio finally hits back. After the fight, we know that she runs away from home. Sumio finally finds her after 3 hours and says sorry and explains that won't happen again. Lee then kind of congratulates him for doing this to her, because then she finally realizes why she was behaving like this. She says this in quotes: "After he hit me and told me off, I realized that I behaved like a spoiled child, because I've never been told off." But that is not the entire truth. Dan actually gave us a reason for her behavior here.
気さくでよく遊んでくれるいい父だったのを覚えてて、でも時々すごい怒ることがあって、お姉ちゃんとかバンバン殴られてたりした時は僕怖かったんですけど。
Why do you think your father disappeared?
よく覚えてないんですけど、お父さん体が悪くてもう仕事もやってなかったんで、なんか悩んでたのかもしれないんですけど、でもそのことを心配してお母さんとお兄ちゃんとお姉ちゃんとかがよく集まって相談してたりしたんですけど、
He don't know why, but father was.
So he got scared when his former father hit his older sister, that most likely being Lee. But we also hear that the former father was in trouble and was not feeling well. I assume that being probably towards the end before he disappeared. Now, interestingly enough, in the next dinner scene, we see that Mikan and Ringo makes the special food for Sumio for the first time. Dan then tells us that this food was also the former father's favorite dish. The food that both the cat that is dead and the former father ate, something that Tsukasa, the mom, doesn't like to talk about at all. Now, let's watch the interview with Dan again. Did you notice something?
そのことを心配してお母さんとお兄ちゃんとお姉ちゃんとかがよく集まって相談してたりしたんですけど、
He don't know why, but father was.
The moment Dan starts talking about Tsukasa, we can see someone in the mirror listening in on the conversation. We also see someone behind Ruta. And when Mikan is talking about the ghost photo, we can also see a figure in the background listening in. It probably comes as no surprise that that is most likely the mom. And to further make this mystery even more interesting, when Mikan talks about the ghost photo that she threw out, but then the next day was in front of the front door again, seemingly make her so scared that she believed that the entire family was haunted after that. I am pretty sure that someone took that photo and placed it in front of the front door after it was thrown out. That person most likely being the same person who's listening in on the conversation. Some of you might have noticed, the moment Sumio carries Yuta up on his shoulders, we can see someone on the second floor right before he rushes to the ambulance. I have seen a few videos where most people believe this to be the mom. The only problem is that we never see the mom only wearing white. We often see her in garden clothes or some type of shirt with like stripes on it. The only person that we see is always wearing a white shirt is Gorky. We never get an explanation to why Gorky suddenly becomes so quiet after probably being very extroverted. The only chance we ever get to some sort of explanation is when Sumio talks about Gorky, but then Tsukasa just immediately shuts it down, saying that they shouldn't talk about him. The only background we hear about Gorky is that he was a former baseball player and probably a very good one. And then they talk about his Japanese choreographics.
Baseball terms. Yeah.
And if you saw the first part of the video, you know that I talked about these two kanji which together means to hit something hard. That actually might be a reference to Leiji's painting earlier on, so I don't think it was a coincidence that we saw Goki on the second floor right after Yuta had fallen from the second floor. But why is that, you may ask? We know that at the same time Sumio was still looking for Ringo, despite that he had no luck with it. Until Yuta had his accident. When Ringo finally returns home, it seems like the mom is not too happy about the situation. She has this kind of like angry expression in her seemingly smiling self, like she doesn't know how to make up her emotions. A subtle thing that also happens is that after Ringo returns home, it is Ringo who serves the food and make meals for Goki. And later on, when we see Goki for the first time, we can see Ringo is whispering something to him. And right before they go on the family trip, we get this ominous scene in front of Goki's door, for seemingly no reason, but I'll get to that now. So on the family trip, we can see Goki in the background just swinging his bat without a ball, so it seems very pathetic. And in the end credits, we actually see a bit more of Goki, where we can see he is wandering around in the background, who suddenly have an accident the first time we see her away from the house. Tsukasa, the mom. I'm pretty sure that Ringo ordered Goki to hit her mom. But I hear you ask, why would Ringo do this? In the scene where Mikan and Ringo makes the food for Sumio, right as the mom says that Dan should just shut up, we can see on Ringo's reaction that she is not very comfortable with what the mom is saying. Another clue that we get is when Ringo makes her interview about the former father. We see no one in the background, but also Ringo seems to hide something. She doesn't really seem to explain everything that she knows. Later on in another interview where Ryonika brings the ghost photo story up to Sumio, we can see Ringo in the window, listening in on the conversation, even though I'm not sure how she's doing that, because I'm pretty sure she can't hear anything. A very subtle thing is when we hear about Ringo for the first time, we hear that the last time we heard from her was around 6 months. Probably around the same time Lemon had her bike accident that we hear from Dan occurred the year before. So I'm pretty sure that Ringo got alerted of Tsukasa's behavior after Sumio told her that Yuta was in a critical state. Taking in the context of all this combined, I'm pretty sure that Ringo felt like she had to take care of the mom, because I'm pretty sure that Ringo helped her mom, killing the first dad, the original dad, her real dad. So yeah, I do believe that Tsukasa and Ringo used Goki as their hunchback to kill certain family members off. The best example we get of that is when Yuta suddenly has an accident and falls from the second floor. We then see Goki in the window. And to make this argument a home run, we hear from Tsukasa that Goki only leaves his room when he has to go to the bathroom. I'm pretty sure Goki looks from the bathroom window. The only weird thing is that we never get a timeline of how long Yuta has been laying there. And another thing, I do believe that Ringo and Tsukasa poisoned first the cat and then the former father. And if we take this context in relation to Leiji's painting of the cats, we can then make the argument that, yeah, they were poisoned, but they were probably also hit. And that's the reason why we see Goki's choreographics, which states to hit something hard. And I'm pretty sure that Tsukasa made Goki kill the cat and then the former father. And that is the reason why we see him this very introverted and, I don't know, very weird state where he stays at home all the time playing Fortnite or something. So yeah, your siblings might be a killer too, we just don't know. But the thing that is never really made clear is why would they kill the former father? he made money to the family and it's a big family, so why is that? Here's the thing. Tsukasa already had a part-time job where Sumio was the manager. That really suggests to me that they killed the former father off because he didn't make enough money. It's a very big family. So I do believe that Tsukasa saw some potential in Sumio. And the thing is, with such a big family, you might not always marry for love. You might marry because it's more suitable for your family. It is something that is very essential, where we clearly see the difference between Sumio and Tsukasa. It really seems that Sumio really loves his family, while Tsukasa just sees it as something she has to do. And yeah, that is my video. That is all you get. But actually, I found another mystery while making this video in the editing process. So, if you see this, you might think, alright, that is just Goki, right? That is what I thought too. But Goki is actually still in the car, or in the van. We can see him in the window. And the thing is, like, we actually see some other characters or something in the background that I'm not entirely sure are family members. I'm pretty sure that is other people. So, I'm not sure if that is an entire new mystery, or if that is just, like, a mistake on their part. It just doesn't seem that way, right? Like, all the other times where we see something in the background, it has very essential plot points. So it's very weird that we suddenly just have some entirely new character we don't know at all. So if you have a theory, do make good of the comments section, okay? Because I have no idea how this is related to each other. It just seems that it's very random. And that makes me think that it's just a mistake. But it's also my first video where I go deep dive into a movie like this, so there might be some mistakes, and yeah, do make good use of the comment section again if you have any suggestions or like of critique. If you have any of that, please again use the comments. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. Also make sure to check out my music, that will make me very happy. See you around.